Hello, welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, today's special guest is Dr. Angelo Cuzalina, and he's a cosmetic surgeon in private practice in Tulsa, Oklahoma since 1998. That's 26 years. And he's performed more than 10,000 procedures on the face, body, and breasts. Now, Dr. Cuzalina is a CEO of Tulsa Surgical Arts, as well as Bellaroma Medical Spa. He has years of experience teaching, writing articles and book chapters, and lecturing at major cosmetic surgery conferences worldwide. Now, Tulsa Surgical Arts is one of the premier cosmetic surgery fellowship training programs that is nationally recognized and accredited by the American Academy of Cosmetic Surgery. Dr. Cuzalina also does missionary work in Ghana, Africa, and his website offers free cosmetic or reconstructive surgery to up to 4 individuals per year who can otherwise not afford it. Welcome to the Beauty and the Biz, Dr. Cuzalina.
Thank you, Catherine. It's great to be here.
Your name is killing me. Cuzalina. What do your patients call you?
They call me Dr. C, and you're very welcome to call me that. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's an old Italian name, but they Americanized it, so it's tough with.
Well, I was thinking they would call you Dr. Cuz. You know,
Yep.
I had a neighbor whose last name was Dr. or Mr. Pazluzny, so we would just call him Dr. or Mr. Paz. So for you, it'd be Cuzalina. I would call you Dr. Cuz. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect.
So tell me, how did you end up in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Well, I'm an Okie by nature. My all the Italians came into Oklahoma, believe it or not, for hard labor in the coal mines from Ellis Island. So my grandfather came in from there. So I grew up in a little small town in Oklahoma. And then I used to wrestle. Oklahoma is big for wrestling. And so Oklahoma State University was really well known for wrestling. So I was on scholarship. So I stayed in Oklahoma and loved it. And that's how I ended up there. I ended up marrying a Texas girl, but otherwise, I'm an Okie.
Did you have to recruit her from Texas, or was she already there?
Pretty much. She came in because she was going to school here. But yeah, unfortunately, she still calls herself a Texan, even though she's been here for 20-something years.
Does she like it?
Yeah, she does. She loves it. Oklahoma and Texas are very similar.
Yeah, they seem to be. So can you just describe your practice, because you have built quite a little empire over there?
Yeah, the nice thing about Oklahoma, the cost of real estate's a little bit cheaper than someplace, certainly where you're from. So I designed the place actually when I was doing my residency in cosmetic surgery as a freestanding surgery center with overnight guest suites. And so we sort of have a spa on one side, medical center on the other. And then, like I said, overnight guest suites as well. But we have 2 main ORs, but a lot of procedure rooms, 36 employees. I think 11 nurses now. So a lot of nurse injectors, nurse practitioner does hormones, weight loss, of course, 3 estheticians, and SC, of course, slash girls, and 2 lymphatic massage ladies, and 5 other doctors that come in and work sort of not all full time, but most of them are certainly do quite a bit of work part time.
Oh, we have got to talk about that. So first, do you do any reconstructive, or is it all cosmetic?
It's all cosmetic. So really 26 years, purely cosmetic. Now, if someone comes in, like I do the missionary work and do the free surgery, and if someone's been, injured from abuse or something where I'm having to reconstruct the face, moving bones around, I'll do that. So I do, I guess I am doing some reconstructive, but it's still cosmetic because it makes them look better.
Okay, and the other doctors as well, are they doing any recon?
All cosmetic. So.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. So you have a big enough demographic there to support everybody, I guess.
I do, but the only thing is 2 of the doctors are coming from out of state to work here part-time. So they have a big presence on, like, say, Instagram and others. And so quite a few of their patients are all from out of state that are coming here. I'm certainly getting my share of out of state patients as well. That's one of the reasons we have the overnight guest suites, because someone's having a big surgery. It's nice for them just to be there locally and stay. It saves them a hotel stay, especially that first 24 hours.
I love that part. As a cosmetic patient, I am all about convenience and effortless customer service. If I could have surgery and then stay at that place and not have to run back to a hotel, run back in the morning, with the drains and the bandages and all of that, what a great, do a lot of patients, do a lot of them take advantage of it?
Even my local patients take advantage of it because it's just nice. Like you said, it's sort of that service. I read a book a long time ago. I think it was The Ritz-Carlton Effect. Yeah, an older book, but it talked about service, and I thought, boy, we have to do that in our industry to set yourself apart. So it's nice because, well, when they have this great room that's really, frankly, nicer than most hotel rooms, but I get to see them in the evening before I go home. So it makes me feel better. Oh, they look good, even, and they're relaxed. And then I see them first thing in the morning. So I get to see them early. They haven't had to get in the car, get back in the car to come back to see me. And then they get a 1 hour lymphatic massage right then, right after I see them. Plus, my nurses check their hemoglobin, hematocrit, blood pressure, heart rate, etc. So you feel really good that, hey, you've seen them, really within 12 hours of their surgery, they're doing well. If you need to give them a little fluid, you could, but it's all about convenience, and it makes it really easy on them too, even if they're from Tulsa.
Yeah. And safety as well. If anything were to be weird, they'd be in really safe hands.
Right. You catch it early. Yeah.
Right. So, by the way, I hope you're going to tell me you bought your building.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, I actually bought it, believe it or not, I bought the land during med school. Went and offered this guy a crazy lowball price, and then he accepted. Then I was like, oh my gosh, I got to figure out a way to pay for this. But it was, I hate to even say how much it was. It was a little over $3 a square foot. It's what I bought the land for. So it's about almost 2 acres. And then I designed the building myself and had it built. I didn't quite get it done right after my fellowship, but back then, 26, 27 years ago, banks would give you money. You just go, hey, I need this much to build it. And they go, well, do you have any patients? No, don't have any patients, but this is what I want to build. And, back then banks would give it to you and you sign a couple of pieces of paper. Now banks, you're signing a stack of 100, signing your life over. So it's a little more difficult nowadays.
How did you know the location? Like, how did you choose that? Because location is everything for restaurants and for you as well when you're dealing with the public. How did you choose that?
Right. Well, when I was actually in my residency training, I had gone out and gone to the Chamber of Commerce, looked around, asked them questions. And then, frankly, I knew I loved this area of the country, so I wanted to practice here. But to figure out, well, where the best location was, I started plotting it just on a map, with little pins. Okay, where are all my competition? How many are in the area? But then really what I was looking at was, where is it growing? And a lot of times what you'll notice in big cities, I noticed that the trend was that the new places would grow opposite of the airport. So if the airport was in the north, you'd notice the city was really growing in the south, or vice versa, et cetera. And so I just saw all the new buildings, the new houses, all the nicest schools were growing sort of the opposite of where everybody already was. So that's where I bought the land.
How far are you from the airport?
About 15 minutes away.
Oh, nice.
Not too close.
What we do out here is we just follow the McDonald's and the Starbucks.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, because they know where the people are coming and going, so just follow them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me, for the OR, like, how did you know how to design all of this, or how did you work out the permits? Because you were very new at this. How did you know all of that?
Right. Some of it was I did a fellowship. So after my residency, I did an entire 1-year fellowship. And the doctor that I trained with was in Texas, and he had a little bit of a similar setup. And so at least I had something I could look at. And then friends, you would go visit other people and see how they were doing it. So you emulate people that are successful. You want to be around people that are better than you, that do things better. And so I just watched other people and saw who were doing the best job and who were the most popular, who were doing the best surgery, and then sort of went and watched and saw what they were doing, checked out their facility in place, and then you come up with your own ideas after that.
But when you first start out, like, how many square feet do you have?
So it has 16,000 square feet.
So when you're brand new, you have your wife answering the phone, and you have you, and now you have this huge building. Like, how were you going to go into that?
It didn't start out 16,000 square feet. So I actually own I bought the original land for $3 square foot. That was on an acre. And then the original building was around a little over 7,000, which still sounds like a lot. And I had another doctor come in with me initially and said, "Hey, you want to come in and we could work together in the same facility." So that helped a little bit. Then the land came a bit later on after we were more successful, and I was able to buy the land next door and then add on. So I actually added on another 16,000 square feet to the original 7. So it's really both sides. The doctor that I started with owns the original. I still own the original 7, but he's in that by himself, and now I'm by myself on the 16,000 square feet, but own both.
But you still talk. That's fantastic because
Yeah,
usually two surgeons who work together often it doesn't go well. So
I know it's tough
any
sometimes.
tips for that? Because that's amazing that you have a good relationship.
Yeah, if you want them to be successful too, I think it works out great. That's the hard part, and especially with staff too. I mean, you want your staff to be successful. I would love to look out in the parking lot and every one of my staff all have all new automobiles. Some people will look at it and go, "I'm paying them way too much." But the other way of looking at it is going, "Man, we're doing well if all my staff are doing well. Plus, they stay with you too."
Right. Actually, I do know a practice that bought their surgical staff all new SUVs
Oh my.
because he needed them to show up every morning for surgery, and he didn't want them complaining that their car wouldn't start. So everyone had a leased gorgeous luxury car. I thought, wow, I don't see that.
That's pretty impressive. Now I haven't got to that level yet. Now I've
Right.
had to go around and pick people up when it was
Yeah.
snowing again because it doesn't snow that much in Oklahoma. So I needed to make sure they were there for the surgery. So occasionally I'll have to pick a few people up.
Okay. Well, there's a really nice tour of your practice on your website. It looks like a movie theater in one of the rooms, but I assume what is that room?
So actually, yeah, I designed it. I had a small version in my original 7,000 square. So then when I made it larger, I was like, well, that really worked out because we put on courses all the time. So we used to put them on 3 times a year. We backed off a little bit. But when you have doctors coming to watch, well, they're all crammed in the OR. You can't get very many in the OR. So we wanted to make it so they could see really well. So when I designed the entire other new building, so I designed it with an amphitheater in the center at the top. And so on both sides of the amphitheater, big windows that you can look down into each of the main ORs. But the main thing, it has big screens, 5 different screens in it. So if someone's filming the surgery, they see it all over and they can hear me talk. I'll have a microphone on. But it's scaled like a theater. So, it's at an angle so that everybody can see well, and it holds 45 surgeons. So that way you can put on a course and have 45 people there. They can see just as well. They can ask questions, you can answer them, but you're not all crammed in the OR where it might, actually interfere with sterility and other problems.
That's amazing. I thought it looked like a movie theater. That good for you. And you're still like, is it for any kind of surgeon, or do you say, okay, I'm doing a BBL this
Yeah,
event?
I'll do a specific. So usually I'll put on a BBL course, but maybe I'll put on a facial course. Now I'll do everything on the face. I'll do endoscopic brow, facelift, maybe nose job, cheek implants, whatever. That course will be 2 to 3 days long and just be on face. And then we'll have another course, say it's breast reconstruction, or it'll be all different types of breast lifts and augmentations. But it's focused on that, and it gives them CME, so they get CME credits depending on how long. We used to do it 3 days. It's exhausting. So 2 days is about as long as I do it now.
Yeah. And you can get CME hours. I'm surprised you're able to do that in a sole facility like that.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt a little bit to get it, but it's worth it because the doctors want it. I think they'd still pay to come do it, but they'd prefer to come and get CME credit while they're there.
So back to when you first started, you were with another surgeon. You weren't partners, or you were partners?
We dissolved our partnership. We were split. He did a different type of surgery. And so we decided I was getting too big with the cosmetic and we were splitting everything. We decided he'll just run his own place and I'll run mine, because his was a totally different type of surgery. And I wanted to focus on cosmetic only. And it's awkward a little bit if someone's doing a different type that takes insurance, and ours is cash based. So when I bought the other land, then we were able to separate cleanly, and still be friends and still own real estate together. And so now he can have his own place, and I can have my own place. And now everyone that's in my place is now all just, I mean, they're plastic surgeons, cosmetic surgeons, but they all do only cosmetic surgery.
So then let's talk about that, because on your website, I think you're showing 5 other surgeons. How is all that set up? Are they contractors, employees, partners?
So all of them but one is really employee, and they're working on a percentage. And so I pay them on gross, so gross production. I even give them a percentage of the anesthesia fee as well. And just because it makes it clean and easy, we don't charge a separate facility fee. We could, but it's, I know how people think. They think sometimes it's better to do that. If you're answering the phone, you can tell them a lower surgery fee, but then you got to explain, well, now I got a facility fee and anesthesia. So it just depends how you look at it. I don't think it's that big a deal, frankly, but we really just have two fees, general fee for surgery, which includes the facility, and an anesthesia fee. But all the surgeons that work for me work for a flat percentage, and I just pay them that flat rate.
So who pays for the marketing? Because this doesn't happen by magic, you know?
So at the rate that I'm paying them, they actually pay their own malpractice, and I pay for some of the marketing. But realistically, they want to be as busy as they can, because the busier they are, the more money they're making for themselves. So all of them have their own personal accounts as well. Now I still market them in globally, but they all have their own, for instance, individual Instagram account, Facebook account. Now they're going to market themselves, and they'll pay for that on their own individual one. So that way, if they want to work somewhere else part-time, if they're part-time, well, it's just cleaner and easier if they have their own account.
Gotcha. And you have enough OR time for everybody to share?
I do. So I've cut back a little bit because I've been in practice for 26 years. So now I just operate 4 days a week. So I used to operate 5, come in on Saturday. So we could do Saturday. Some people do come in on that, but we have 2 main ORs, but we also have some other pretty good sized procedure rooms. So the little smaller procedures we can do in all of those. And then the 2 big ORs, anything major and under general anesthetic we'll do. So we just try to fill those up completely all day long, every day, 5 days a week. So sort of 10 of the big OR days with general anesthesia, little light IV sedation in some of the other rooms.
Right? Have you noticed a trend towards the less anesthesia? Are the patients asking for it, or no?
They really don't in our practice. Now, obviously, the big companies that are liposuction companies, Sonabella, et cetera, I mean, that's their big push. And, you're going to get those patients that love that. They hear that advertisement and they're like, they don't even say the word surgery on their ads. They just say, hey, come in and look better and have this little small procedure. And so, but there is a group of clients that really love that. So we understand. I am not that personality type. You strike me as sort of, if you were a surgeon, I think you would be a little bit more of my mindset, because you're a go-getter. You got to get after things right away. Well, if someone's sitting there talking to you, it slows you down a little bit. And I feel like I'm not as good. I can operate much better if somebody's totally, I can focus then. I don't have to worry that I'm hurting them. And so almost all of our patients are just total general.
I've actually watched the Awake Lipo, and I just think, as a surgeon, how in the world can you focus when you've got somebody that's weak? I don't know how a lot of people like it. I have friends that do it. So, but it would wear me out. Just mentally, it would exhaust me. So, and for me, I feel like I'm safer because I have somebody else in charge of that. They're watching the patient every second. They're watching their blood pressure, heart rate. I don't have to worry about it personally. Well, as a cosmetic patient, I don't want to be awake for any of this. Although I have had really big things done under IV sedation, or I shouldn't say that. Like a colonoscopy. What do you call that?
Yeah, that's an IV sedation. So,
and that was amazing. I just want to wake up and walk away. General anesthesia is more hard hitting. It takes me a while to wake up from that and regain consciousness. But I think it's great to offer both if you can,
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if somebody wants it, we have some surgeon in our office that will do it. I used to when I was younger, but now I'm like, yeah, just go to sleep. My buddy will do your.
when you, I think after you've paid your dues for decades, I think you get to decide
That's
what you
right.
really want to do, what you like to do, the
Yeah.
kind of patients you like. I think you've won that. You've earned that.
Yeah. I love talking to patients, but not while I'm operating on them.
And then how do you work out leads there? So if somebody calls in, because you probably do some pretty good advertising. If somebody calls in, how do you rotate leads or how do you figure
We
that out?
rotate them. It's not as much of a problem with the surgeons. A lot of the surgeons are specifically calling for them. And if they call with me, I'll say, my staff will say, well, if he's busy, would you like to get into our next person that's available then? And so we do rotate them. It's not as big a deal. You'd be surprised how much they call specifically for a specific surgeon. Whereas like the nurse injectors, we have to make sure we have that on a rotation. Same way with the estheticians, a rotation for them, etc.
Do you
Lash
do,
girls, etc.
do you do any kind of tier pricing? You
We
know,
do. So we will give all the doctors that are coming in, they offer a discount. If they're like if a patient, for instance, if a patient wants me but I'm busy or I'm too booked out or something like that. Or they say, well, your price is just a little bit high, et cetera. Then we'll offer it to the next surgeon.
I love that because that way you're addressing all sorts of different concerns and objections and desires of a patient. And you're also a one-stop shop. You
Right.
have quite a big team there. Wow. So when did it get so big, or has it always been like that?
No, it's just grown steadily over time, really, just organically and steadily. Um, and fortunately, we've had really good staff. And so what happens is all the staff keep staying. And even staff that were started at a lower level that went back and say, for instance, we've had two that are in nursing school right now. Well, they worked in other positions, but now they want to be a nurse at our facility. And so they've sort of worked their way through the ranks and coming back. And we sort of keep them part-time doing some other things for us while they're in nursing school too. So fortunately, when you have people so long, I think we've got at least 10 or 12 people that are 15 to 20 years. So that's a lot that have been there a long time. Well, then it's easy then to start adding people because you're not just replacing them at that point. If you're losing a lot of people, well, then now you're just playing catch up and now you got to retrain them. So we've got this core group. Now, I don't know what's going to happen when we're all, when I'm another 10 years out and they're all another 10 years out. We'll have to see.
Who manages all these people?
So my wife, she hates this term, but she's our CFO.
Okay.
But she's doing more keeping track of the money, payroll. And then my office manager, believe it or not, is my cousin. So she's managing overall. And then we have an office manager for the front, and one of the nurses is over the surgery center. And then we have a separate manager that's over the spa. So we have a manager for the for the surgery side at the front, for the spa side on the front, and then a manager for the back OR area.
Do they meet with you, or
they
wife,
do.
and your wife tells you what's going on?
Yeah, well, the upper level tiers, we meet together. And then we'll have quarterly, we'll have a big office meeting, but then we divide them smaller. So like my office manager will meet with the spa side manager and the spa people, and then my office manager and the, surgical side manager will meet with the surgery people in individual smaller groups.
So what would you say is the biggest challenge of running that practice that size?
What we've had to learn a little bit over time is when you get this many people and they're all working on commission, or the majority of them, and then we try to give commissions even for people that are just they're answering the phone, doing things. I mean, if they're getting people to give a good review or something like that, we'll give them a little commission on that too. But all of a sudden, you have, and the doctors are on commission. Well, some of those commissions are all different. They have to be. You can't pay a girl or someone the same for a chemical pill as you might be able to pay them for a Morpheus treatment or for a surgery. So you've got all these different percentages. So trying to keep track of that and be accurate. So we actually hired sort of a full-time auditor accountant that's come in now part-time. And so, and really part of the reason is too, to keep track of just, you could have $500,000 worth of injectables at any one time in your office. Well, if someone starts stealing that, you're going to be really hurt financially. So, we feel like we have got great staff. I trust them, but they know that we're watching everything. And then when you hire an accountant that's more like a forensic auditor type thing, that's really looking to make sure we're tracking everything, then people even realize more, hey, we're really watching. We're just not going by the seat of our pants. You just can't do that when you get to a certain level and you have that much income coming in, but also things going out, and you're paying for all this material. Boy, it just takes a few mistakes and you're going to really hurt yourself. A friend of mine had that problem, and you hear it all the time. Doctors even, going bankrupt because they're getting things stolen. So we love our staff and we trust them, but we're very, particular with how we do things, and particularly when it comes to injectables and just huge amount of money and payments going out too.
Well, I'll tell you, I would also keep an eye on the C team as well. This podcast has unraveled quite a few embezzlement scenarios, and it can be the very people that you trust the most, like the CFO, like the COO, anybody who's handling any of the money. There always should be more eyes on it than just one. And a doctor has to know the numbers. That somebody to be reporting to you what the numbers are, why are they that way, or what's going on. It's just so important in today's day.
My last office manager who retired, it was wonderful. She was great, but I will say, my wife took over a lot of her positions when it had to do with money and the finances, which is great. Now, my wife and I can talk about the finances, but we really don't let too many other people see that nitty gritty other than this forensic auditor that comes in. And so, it has worked out really well. Matter of fact, even though my last office manager was wonderful, I think we saved almost immediately $10,000 a month when my wife took over. Now she's not in the office; she's at the house, going over the finances. But and then of course I go over them as well. But it's amazing how just little things you miss, even if, it's not malicious or anything, but so many things are so easy that you don't realize you're paying and shouldn't be paying.
Right. Happens all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the, you have a huge med spa profit center, like percentage wise, how much of your practice is surgical versus non-surgical?
So the non-surgical keeps going up and up, which is great. It hasn't quite caught up with the surgery centers because I was the big income, person for years and years. So now I've tried to back off a little bit. Like I said, instead of operating 5 days a week, I operate 4, and then you got 5 other surgeons. So that's a lot of high dollar money coming in, but it's still 40% spa now. Now it's taken a long time to get there. So we're pushing it. Most of that's probably on the not probably, it is on the injectable side because we've got a lot of nurse injectors, and they all keep doing better and better. So they're increasing about 30% per year, and so it doesn't take long with a lot of injectors if they stay on that trajectory to really increase. So.
And your injectors or whomever's doing the social media, it looks like your team is on board with social media. And they're just doing such good content. It's so interesting. I see you're not the dancer, but let the staff dance,
Right. Yeah,
somebody's got to be entertaining. And you seem to want to be more clinical and educational.
Yeah, I'm boring.
You're gonna give it a little spot here and there, but let the team is so entertaining. That's how you do it. You get the right people on board who like to do that kind of stuff. You can tell they're having a good time with it. I think
Yeah.
it's such good team building, you
Oh,
know?
I totally agree with you. It's great team building. And we take our staff and their spouses every year to like Mexico. Used to take them in Vegas, but we got way too much trouble. But about every 2 years, we'll go down to Mexico, all inclusive, and that's great team building. But you're right, the social media is wonderful because they have so much fun doing it. And like you said, I'm not a dancer, so I'm not. Someone kept trying to tell me I don't know if you know who Chad Deal is.
Of
He's,
course.
of course, and Chad is wild as can be, like a
Yes.
lot of people are
You don't need
on
to
social
be
media, and he
Daniel.
can get away with it. But I can't. It would be fake.
Yes.
I'm not going to be fake on there, so I might be a little boring. But the rest of my staff can be exciting.
You're doing it just fine. You don't need Chad Deal's thing. You're doing just fine on your own. What would you say though is like, give me a big mistake that you've made throughout the years, something that you really learned from that others could learn from without making it themselves?
Yeah, that's true. Well, besides some financial investment mistakes, um, probably what I really had to learn from was when I was hiring people and you get somebody that you knew is not going to work out. And I'm a nice person by nature. I would try to make it work. I would move them to different positions. And I knew immediately I just needed to fire them. They belong somewhere else. And now it doesn't happen very often because I think we're better at hiring them in the first place. But that's why we have so many people that stick with us, because we're pretty good at hiring now, way better than I used to be. But I was terrible at firing people. I hated it, didn't want to do it. And now if I get somebody that just didn't work out, it's just easier to rip off the Band-Aid. That's probably the number one thing.
That is so true. I mean, it's so cliche, but so true. Hire
Yeah,
slow, fire fast.
that's
When you
right.
finally do it, everyone will come around and say, God, that took you a long time. This has been miserable. And everyone's a lot happier now. And you're not firing them, you're freeing them to be somewhere else other than there. It's
That,
just
that that's so true. I mean, somebody had to tell me that one time, and I thought, oh, okay, well, that makes me feel better. I'm just letting them go get a better job.
right.
Yeah,
I love that you're paying on commission. I know we were never supposed to do that in the past, but even Charlie Munger
yeah,
said, or was it Warren Buffett? One of the big guys said,
yeah,
if you want to know where productivity is happening, follow the incentives or something like that.
yeah.
Human beings
Right.
produce more when acknowledged more,
Yep.
period. So if that is, are there any tricks to that or tips for that? Because does anyone feel like, oh, she gets so much more than I do, even though I'm working as hard as she is, but she has a bigger ticket item kind of thing? Or did
Right.
any of that come up?
Oh, you hear it a little bit, but they know I do not like drama, and I don't like. So now they go out of their way to not let me. If they are griping about that, they don't say it to me, and when I've always told them, well, you're big people, you can handle this themselves. I mean, obviously, some people are going to make more than others, but we don't really hear it, mainly because most of them are doing very, very well. And some of them, we did have to start them out hourly. We still start our nurses. We do a sort of a progression where the nurses, say it's a new nurse coming in young, they really haven't done anything. They don't know cosmetic surgery. So we make them for 2 years, they have to work as scrub tech, or work in the OR. So they're circulating, they're working in recovering people. They're coming in pre-op, seeing post-ops. They're getting to know the business. Once they learn, they're watching others do the injections. So it's not like they walk in and become an injector. So they're gradual. So what happens is in that one, you really can't give a percentage to, and so you can give them a few little bonuses here and there, but for the most part, they're hourly. Now they want to get to be an injector and be full-time commission only. And so they sort of slowly creep into it where we put them on hourly plus commission when after their 2 years, they start injecting. And then their whole goal is to get busy enough where they switch to commission only.
I've talked to your staff. Some of them, we were just at a conference recently, and you have built up a culture that is so friendly and congenial and collegiate. So how'd you do it? Like how are you building a culture? And you're a nice person. Is that the secret?
I think so. I mean, I think you hire people you like, that are friendly. And honestly, I think we end up firing people that aren't friendly, or they quit. And it's funny how, a person is just, they're not necessarily even angry. They're just sort of bitter about stuff. They're not a happy person. If they're around a whole bunch of happy people, they end up leaving. And so all of a sudden you get this group in that they're all tend to be happy and they're having fun, and we're being a little bit silly sometimes. I love to tease people and do some practical jokes, of course, and things like that. But you get people that are like that too. So everybody's having fun, and they're making good money too. I mean, they're on a percentage and working hard, but it's almost like a lot of them too that are on that percentage. Then they almost see where you're coming from, so they're not bitter about me being successful, because they go, oh well, he's working hard, and so they understand what it's like, especially like all the nurse injectors, estheticians, all of them. Now they also have their own patients that gripe about the littlest thing. So now we're all on the same page together, and we go, oh my gosh, yeah, the stress. We understand the stress together because we all have it now.
Hmm. How do you handle birthdays when you have so many people, and
we
there's babies and there's weddings and
Oh
how
my
do you
gosh,
handle all
yeah, we have, we have our little private group chat, and now we used to do a cake. Oh my gosh, every birthday, and it was just insane. So now we do a birthday cake once a month. So whoever's birthdays,
That's a great idea.
yeah, the month. So that way it cuts down. Like, okay, you three or four, you're January's birthday. So, so
And then you can do movie night too because you have that gorgeous theater, you know?
yeah, movie night. Well, football, all kinds of things. So
Yeah.
little parties.
Actually,
It's great.
with the one tip that you said earlier that I think is so brilliant, don't take the staff to Las Vegas. Every time I've heard that, it's been a
Yeah,
problem. It
yeah.
gets legal, it gets nasty, it gets
Oh, it's
crazy.
tough.
Go somewhere mellow, like just like you said, go to a beach, everyone chill. They
Yeah,
don't
we're
Vegas.
all just laying around, and it's an all inclusive. So you don't have, and all of a sudden you're not having to rack up a big bill. You know what you're getting into when you're there. So yeah, it's
Oh,
just
such a good
easy.
idea.
And really, like Cancun for us is a 2 hour flight, and it's the same time zone. So
Oh,
not super costly.
yeah.
So it works out.
Does everybody get to go or only if they hit their numbers?
No, everybody gets to go. So yeah.
Oh,
So
you
yeah, and probably now there are special trips. Somebody does exceptionally well, I give a little extra bonus to, of course.
nice. All right. Last question about business. Let's talk about private equity because it's such a hot topic right now. And just so many of the doctors are thinking about it or have dipped their toes in it or have been just trying to understand it. You're actually set up beautifully for private equity to swoop in because you have a killer profit center in the non-surgical, which is what they like so much. And then you have some surgical, but other surgeons involved. You have a nice business system set up that they would love. Have you looked at that at all? And if so,
Oh,
what do you think?
yeah, absolutely. And then I looked at it from different ways, and I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I've gotten really good offers, of course. But really, it was more of a learning process. Now, my brother is in mergers and acquisitions, so I know quite a bit about it. But still, it's a learning process. If you asked me years ago what an EBITDA was, I couldn't have told you. But it's still sort of a magic number. But still, trying to build up my practice so that it is enticing to private equity is sort of the phase I'm in now, because I looked at it, I wasn't ready. I love the control right now. Honestly, there's so many tax advantages to own your own business, whatever it may be, other businesses. And so I'm sort of taking advantage of that while I'm building up my EBITDA, and bringing more people in. Now I know what private equity is looking for more, and so I'm trying to focus my practice so that it would look very attractive to private equity. And I've got all these fellows that are coming out that I can help them, and that we may create a joint venture too. That would be obviously very easy. I've had 37 past fellows, and I have a new one every 6 months that stays for a year. So when you got two a year, that's sort of a built-in system. by itself. But having said that, you still get worried. Well, is this private equity? It's booming right now. Is it just going to fall apart in a few years? And now no one's offering good numbers. I mean, but that's like anything. It's like real estate, whatever is it time to sell? Is it time to buy? We're always worried about. All you can do is control your own destiny, do as well as you can, build your practice up as well. And I'm really happy right now. It's fun. Everything's going well. So I hate to just give that to somebody else for some cash.
Right.
You
Well,
lose a lot.
and know thyself. What would you do with all that time on your hands? Like, what would you do all day?
Yeah, I would have to. Well, that's why I'm in some other businesses. If for some reason I did do it, you'd still be operating at least, most of these require that you operate for at least another 5 years, typically at a percentage. But still, even after that, if you retire early, if you're the type of people you and I are, I can just tell you don't want to retire really. I mean, you want to be active and doing things. So that's the other thing. I mean, if you're just trying to get out and don't do anything, well, private equity might be something good to consider. But if you don't really have a method for them to keep it going, they're not going to be interested in you. So if you're just, unfortunately, if you're older and older than me by maybe a decade or two, and you're trying to sell and you don't really have a spa and you don't have any other doctors, your practice is just not going to be worth as much, of course.
Yeah, and trying to get a young guy straight out of school to, first of all, get a loan. I don't even think they can get a loan anymore. Then even if they can get $1 million loan, they might as well start their own deal,
Right, exactly.
Well, I don't know if there's enough there for them to even hang on to. So that's gotten really complicated. It's
Right.
just, you can count on that in life, just when you think you have it all figured out, gosh, it all changes and it changes so quickly. I never said the word private equity until 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I talk about it all the time. So
Yeah.
crazy.
I know. Who knows where it's going? I mean, you see it in all the other areas, but you also see people go bankrupt trying to do it too. So it's not just all rosy as well. So you got to be careful.
Right. So let's go back to the marketing part because you're in Oklahoma. At least you're not in Miami or LA or New York. Those are brutal places to practice.
Really is.
I've been to Oklahoma and you have a beautiful competitive arena there, which is limited. Do you like has it always been, I mean, how much is the competition? Is it growing? Like do people
Yeah, I mean, there's always new people coming in, but compared to Southern California or Miami, I mean, there's just not that many people. Now the population is not that big either, but cost-wise, the interesting thing, I mean, my cost of a Brazilian butt lift, for instance, I mean, I charge at least double, maybe triple a lot of what people are charging in Miami. So, and that's just because of so much competition there. So I'm really blessed in that, yeah, there's not that many other people and they're all successful and doing well too. Now they all want to be busier, of course. I've been in practice for 26 years. So hopefully I have built that up. All the other doctors that work at my facility, they're all trying to get busier. And there's competition anywhere, even Tulsa, Oklahoma. There's plenty of competition. There's good surgeons. And so all of them want to be busier. And of course, social media now is obviously seems to be a lot more important than, our website. And I've been fortunate. I never really came out into practice and did radio or television, billboards, and all that. I got lucky because when I started, there just wasn't that much. So a lot of it was organic and word of mouth. Now I found myself, okay, I want to be able to raise prices. I mean, how can you improve yourself? Well, you got to be able to raise your prices, and especially with inflation. My fellow the other day, one of my first fellows said, he was telling me I'm booked out till August, September. He's booked out quite a while. And then I asked what he was charging. And it was really a small fee. And I said, look, if you're booked out that long, you have to raise your prices. You should not be booked out a year. That's just, to me, that's crazy. But if you're doing that much advertising through social media that you could be that busy to be booked out a year, to me, that just shows that you need to raise your prices and be booked out a shorter period of time. But we now are using a little bit of everything. I mean, that we still focus on the social media mostly, but we try to make our website decent. Um, some of these companies offer you billboards for a little time after you buy a lot of their product or something. We'll do that.
Are you doing billboards? Because I think those would work well in Oklahoma.
Yeah, they seem to work pretty well. We're testing the waters. I've never done them before, but a couple of the companies, when you buy a lot of injectable products, they'll say, "Hey, you're buying so much, we're going to give you a billboard for 3 months." So we're seeing how much, and we're trying to track it to see if it's really worth it.
Well, the
It's like
secret is
anything
to
else.
put a big QR code on there and let
Yeah,
the drivers, scan it, and then you
yeah,
can track that, or at least have a killer website name,
yeah.
that's easy to remember, and have it on a really great highway that everyone goes on twice a day to get
Right,
back and forth, because
right.
it needs that repetition for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you noticed the patient trends being any different? Are they asking for different things than they used to ask for?
I they do go through little cycles, of course. And so for a while, the Brazilian butt lift was crazy insane, and it's still popular, but it's tailored off. I would say, in the last 2 years, I think I've done more tummy tucks and breast lift augmentations than ever. I've always done a bunch, but that really, the tummy tuck and breast lift, and now that's my patient demographic too. A lot of women that have had babies already. So I'm certainly not the cheapest by any means, and so I'm not getting the flat chested girl that's scraping their last little penny to get an augmentation. So I don't see those as much. I tend to see the married, lady that's had her 3 kids and she's done. Now she needs the mommy makeover.
I love that demographic. They're young enough and still vain, where they care
Yeah,
about their appearance. They have the financial wherewithal. They're rational human beings, they're not
right,
looking for the lowest price. They're looking for somebody who can give them a really good result that they trust.
right.
Love that group. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The only other group that's just fantastic work on is massive weight loss patients. So they're so grateful, and it's this huge transformation. So great group.
They're a different kind of patient, though. They're psychologically they're a tad different.
Yeah,
It's a big operation, my goodness, or
yeah,
several of them. It's just it's
yeah,
different, not
yeah.
better or worse, just different. By
Right.
the way, at the meeting we were just at, there was a lot of discussion about Wegovy or whatever, all the glutides and all of that.
Yeah.
Have you jumped on that weight loss bandwagon?
And mainly because we have a nurse practitioner who's excellent. And so she was focused initially on hormone replacement. But obviously, semaglutide, we have our group of patients, and she handles all of it. So she makes them come in, makes them get their labs. So we're not just giving out the drug willy nilly. So, she's really trying to evaluate them and do it the right way. And, but I will say, I've got a lot of my staff on it too, and they all look fantastic. Yeah, so
At the meeting, they said there's really no downside to it, that they had a university professor who has studied it forever. Although on YouTube, it did say there's a chance that it adds some depression because
yeah,
people no longer have that escape for food.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
any of that going on?
I've heard that, but we have not seen it. So that complication I've heard of, really haven't seen it at all. Every once in a while, you'll see that. You see weird things with people that lose weight. Even before semaglutide, the massive weight loss patients, a lot of them say their spouse loses 100 pounds or 150 pounds. They look amazing. A lot of times they'll get a divorce because the person was used to them when they were heavier, and now they're a little intimidated or worried they're going to go cheat on or something like that, and they end up getting a divorce. So strange things happen when people change dramatically like that. But we haven't seen really the other complication people talk about is muscle wasting, and a lot of people get on and they're just adamant, oh, it causes muscle wasting, and we've had people on it for a long time, and we're just not seeing. I'm sure it occurs probably in some people, but I haven't seen it. So thankfully,
Well, as we age, we lose muscle, and
yeah,
maybe
you're
it
going to,
tolerates a bit more. But I do as many push-ups now as I used to, and it's nothing like I used to get a killer result. Now I'm just
yeah,
trying to hang
oh
in
yeah,
there. So
no,
no,
exactly,
body changes no matter what. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So, I have to ask you about reviews. You guys have done a killer job. You have like over 700 reviews. How are you doing that?
Well, we do give a bonus, a commission if someone gets, we give them a little bit. It's not a lot, big commission, but if they'll have the patient do the review, we try to get them right then. I just feel like when you let them go home, it's like me. I'm not going to go on a review and give a restaurant a review. I just don't think about it. So you have to sort of catch them in the moment. And now we'll still send them emails and things like that. But really, it's given a commission to a few select people, particularly like on my side of the surgery side. We have one employee that's called our patient concierge. So, I mean, that person is there to call the patient all the time, make sure they're doing well, maybe halfway between their next follow up, but they're the ones responsible for also getting the review too. So they know the patient really well. They're friendly with them. And when they come in, usually at their 6-week post-op. So I see patients 1 week and 6 weeks. Well, 6 weeks are pretty much mostly healed. That's one of the better times to ask. And so we'll ask for the review then. I have another lady then on the spa side who asks the ladies on the spa side to give a review, or men. I don't know what it is about her personality. She's just good at it. Now she makes a lot of money because she's got a lot of money extra, especially with commissions. She's just so good for getting it for like the nurses and other people on the spa side. So yeah, definitely.
Logistically, are they doing it with the patient? Are they giving them instructions? Are they asking them to do it on their cell phone? Or
yeah, they're asking them to do it on their cell phone. So, I know some people have their own iPad and directs them. And we have a specific link. It's just a QR code. So if that patient click, and they'll tell them right then, say, here, if you'd like to give us a review, look, you can click right here. And so they'll do it in front of them. And if they click it, that would be the ideal scenario. But a lot of them, they don't have time, of course, as you know. So we send them a link. So we try to make it as few steps as possible so that when they click that little QR link, they're immediately into a Google review or wherever you want to direct them. And so mostly Google.
Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. And I just think that's amazing. So your word of mouth there must be killer. I would think most of your patients now at your stage have got to be coming from word of mouth, right?
Yeah, it's sort of weird. This is the strangest thing. So I've been in practice a long time. And if you asked me 15 years ago or 10 years ago, hey, where do your patients come from? I would tell you 98% of them were word of mouth. And a few from the website. We didn't do social media. Now that I ask every person when a new consultation, I go, oh, by the way, how'd you hear? Now they ask too, and so we need to record it for our database. But I'm just curious personally too. So I've been asking that for a few years now, and I'm surprised because it used to be 98% word of mouth, and it's still probably a third or so. But now the other third is Snapchat, believe it or not, and the other is Instagram. And almost rarely is there anything else. And Snapchat, I know a lot of people say, well, we don't use that much or whatever, but I do surgery every day, and most people want me to record them a little bit. And we don't put a whole lot on there, but people watch it. They love to watch surgery. I'm shocked. I thought it might even hurt my business because, they're going to go, oh my God, you're cutting like that. I don't want to have that done to me, but no, they're entertained by it, and they sort of like see it. Plus, they also see that you're comfortable and, professional, and that maybe it doesn't look as bad as they thought, or at least they know what they're getting involved with. So
I'm surprised that I haven't heard Snapchat in a long time.
I know. My younger fellows all make fun of me, and they go, "Oh, nobody uses Snapchat. Your daughter uses it, but that's about it, or whatever." But now they watch it because obviously I can put things on there. My nurses film it without having to worry about, okay, I got to cover up this, I got to cover up that. They still put some on Instagram, but they have to be much more careful.
Right.
Instagram,
well,
yeah. So
Instagram can have a bad day and take you down, and you have no control for that. Right. So I would keep my options open when it comes to social media.
Yeah, exactly.
So give me the craziest patient or staff story that you care to share.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think. I'll tell you this. I told you we do some practical jokes, and one of my, and especially to my fellows, because I can probably get away with doing things. So I have a fellow from New York, and it was his last week, and he bought this muscle car. I think it was big Camaro or whatever. He was so proud of it, and so he was getting ready to drive it all the way back to New York, and he's the classic, New Yorker. He actually works now part time for me. But I went to, we have animals in Oklahoma, and I'm used to a lot of them. So anyway, I went to the PetSmart and bought 100 crickets and put all 100. He left his door open, didn't know it. Put them all in his car, and he's getting ready to drive back to New York. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, there's all these animals in my car." Of course, my staff's going along with it. We just say, "Well, it's Oklahoma. Did you, sometimes they'll crawl in when it's getting ready to rain." And, of course, he believed it for a while, and then he realized that I had done it to him. So the next morning, I came to my practice, and I went up to my office is upstairs. I went up, and my office door was shut, which is never shut. And I thought, uh-oh. And then I heard the clucking. He had put all these chickens in my office, and they had pooped all over the place. Stunk. Oh, it was horrible. Luckily, I didn't even go in. I thought, I'm just skipping. I'll go see my patients. But but that type of stuff goes on pretty frequently. I mean, we have great. You get your share of crazy patients. Everybody has that, but I think it's the other stuff that we do that makes
I
it
don't
fun.
even know what would be worse. Crickets in my car would creep me out, and something in my animals in my office pooping, that would
Oh,
be worse
it's
too. Yeah.
insane.
You guys are way into that too much.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Once you start it, the next person has to top you. But
Dear Lord. All right. Tell us something else we don't know about you, because I was very interested to hear, and you already mentioned it, the wrestling. Like you were like the state champion or something. You were really into it.
yeah, I used to. I know. I'm obviously older now, but yeah, Oklahoma, it's a popular sport. Iowa's another place that has it really popular. So wrestling, I was actually on the world team a couple of times, and I got the bronze medal in the world championship in '82 and '86. So everybody in Oklahoma just about wrestles. They say wrestling. Uh, but I will say one thing about the higher level sports, though, it makes you sort of intense where, a lot of things are easier then. So people have, bad days or you're stressed out about it. I'm sort of always saying, oh, at least I can eat. Back wrestlers, they always had to lose weight, and they're always trying to, not eat, not drink, and then you're working out really hard. So it was difficult, but having something that was really difficult and challenging makes some of this other stuff a little easier.
Yeah. Some days I say, you know what? Clean drinking water. I'm good.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm living the life, living the dream.
That's right. Yeah.
So do you have any advice, just to wrap this up, any advice for the up and coming surgeons, because they're entering a crazy world, aren't they?
Gosh, I know it. Yeah, my fellows ask me the same question all the time. What can they do? And one, I sort of say, in certain ways, it's okay not to be so busy right at the very beginning. Don't let it stress you out. I mean, you're going to do well. Sometimes when you go into a place where they feed you all these surgery cases, you're still sort of learning, even though you've done a fellowship and you're well trained, or, some plastic surgeons that train at these, prestigious places. Well, they still haven't been out doing private practice for a long time. You can take some bumps and lumps along the way. So if you just focus on everything, doing it as perfectly as you can, and just getting great results, so that with as few complications as possible. Believe me, I went through that phase of my life where I was busy and I was just doing so much surgery. There's going to be a certain number of complications, and believe me, I mean, I've learned from it the hard way that when you can just get consistent good results and you really be focused on that low complication rate, it just makes your life so much easier, and then have fun along the way. I think that's helped me a lot, because it's a tough business. I mean, man, it's competitive. So you can't focus on the other person. That's the other probably other thing that I hear it so many times when people are complaining about so and so, or they're training this way or that way. If a patient asks me, I'm like, man, there's really good surgeons. If they don't want to go, if they want to go somewhere else, it's fine by me. But I mean, if you just focus on yourself and making yourself better, and not worry about the other competition, it's going to come. They get impatient. You know, it's a great line of business. So.
Comparing ourselves to others is probably, most of us have that issue. And I've noticed, just I have to keep remembering, just compare me to me.
Yeah.
From 10 years ago, 20 years ago, just compare me to me. That's so much more sane than looking at all the hot shots I watch on the internet, making billions of dollars. And that's not helping,
No.
Yeah.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, how could people get a hold of you if they were so interested in talking with you? I know your website is TulsaSurgicalArts.com.
Right.
Any other way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, really the best way is probably email. It's Angelo@TulsaSurgicalArts.com. So, and that goes privately to me. And so I respond, I get lots of emails every day, but I don't mind, people have questions, I answer them. So.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Catherine. It was a pleasure. I enjoyed it as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. So everybody, that wraps it up for Beauty in the Biz today. If you would, share this with your colleagues and your staff. And then if you've got any questions or comments or feedback for me, please leave them on my website at CatherineMaley.com, or you can certainly DM me on Instagram at CatherineMaleyMBA. Thanks again, and we'll talk again soon. The fastest way to success is to model other successful surgeons who have what you want, but you can only see their results, not the path they took to get there. So you continue to jump from one thing to another, hoping to find something that will work for you too. But it rarely does. So try this shortcut instead. It's guaranteed to move you forward. I compiled my intellectual property to grow cosmetic revenues, everything I've gleaned over the years, into one playbook of the most successful practices and what they do to win. Go to cosmeticpracticevault.com and let's grow your cosmetic revenues.